In the early 18th century, Austria had fought in the Spanish War of Succession and annexed a few European regions into its empire. However, they were also struggling to find an heir for the empire. The Emperor Charles VI only had 2 daughters and no suitable male relatives, so a succession crisis ensued. The Pragmatic Sanction of 1713 was intended to curb this. It settled that the empire was indivisible through inheritance. Most European powers would eventually accept this, however, a lot of nations still hoped to weaken the empire. In the 1730s, Austria was involved in the Polish War of Succession. During this war, they were allied with Prussia and Russia against the French and Spanish. However, after the war finished, Charles died and his daughter, Maria Theresa, took the throne in 1740. In Prussia, Frederick II, later known as Frederick the Great, ascended to the throne in the same year. He was keen to strengthen Prussia, so declined to endorse the Pragmatic Succession. He then marched an army into the Austrians' rich province of Silesia. By 1741, he had control over the whole region, however didn't want to push any further south. Then, also in 1741, Charles VI's son-in-law, Charles Albert, the King of Bavaria, claimed the title of Holy Roman Emperor, as well as a few Habsburg territories. He gained the support of the French and the Spanish, who joined in the war against Austria. Bavarian and French troops marched east and took Prague. France was wary of getting Russia, Austria's ally, involved in the war, so they persuaded Sweden to open a war in Finland. However, within 2 years, the Swedish had been defeated and lost land around Ingria. Meanwhile, in the Americas, Britain had been fighting Spain in the War of Jenkins' Ear, an inconclusive war which began in 1739. So when Spain entered the war, the British, as well as the Dutch, decided to send aid to Austria in the hopes of undermining their rival. Back in Austria, Maria Theresa fled Vienna to Hungary. In the Hungarian parliament, she was able to gain the support of the nobles, who gave her 20,000 men. With this new army, in January 1742, she was able to drive the armies of Bavaria and France back into the Bavarian capital of Munich, and then in December, she reclaimed Prague. On another front, in Italy, the Spanish and their Neapolitan allies tried to take Milan, however they were fought back by the Austrians. They secured a new ally in Genoa, however their actions also brought Sardinia into the war on Austria's side. This front remained inconclusive for the rest of the war. Then, in 1743, the British made their way into Europe, and they joined up with Habsburg, Dutch and Hanoverian troops, and they defeated the French at the Battle of Dettingen in Bavaria. On a side note, the battle was the last time a British king led his troops into battle. In response to the British involvement, the French planned to invade Britain and put the Jacobite pretender, Bonnie Prince Charlie, on the throne. However, storms destroyed the French fleet, so they focused instead on taking Austrian Netherlands. Yet, even without French support, in 1745, Bonnie Prince Charlie landed in Scotland and marched his army of Jacobites south into England. The British then had to withdraw from defending Austrian Netherlands to counter this new threat, which they did in 1746 by defeating him at the Battle of Culloden. Meanwhile, the British had been blockading French ports and harassing their merchant fleets, and in the Americas, British militiamen took the important port of Louisbourg in Nova Scotia. The only French successes came in the Low Country, where they took control of a few major cities, and in India, where they took Madras from the British. The Austrians tried to reclaim Silesia, however they were fought back. Prussia then sealed their authority over Silesia with the Treaty of Dresden. With it, their population increased by 50%, and they became a dominant force in Europe. The war dragged on for a couple more years, but the French couldn't make a significant breakthrough, even though they took Brussels and threatened the Dutch Republic. So, a peace was signed in 1748. Most territory reverted back to its pre-war owner. Austrian Netherlands went back to Austria, Madras went back to the British, etc, etc. Maria Theresa did, however, give the Duchy of Parma, which the Habsburgs annexed after the War of the Polish Succession, back to the Bourbons. Otherwise, Maria Theresa was able to hold on to her title and keep most of her empire together. Plus, back in 1745, the Holy Roman Emperor and King of Bavaria, Charles Albert, died. The new Holy Roman Emperor was Maria Theresa's husband, Francis I, Grand Duke of Tuscany, meaning the Holy Roman Empire was also back under Austrian control.